Hey everybody, this is me, Lance Meister, Undead Viking, here to have another conversation with you about an aspect of role-playing that is, well, it's probably been spoken about to death. It has been beaten to death, so I'm going to go ahead and amble over to the dead horse and give it a couple of kicks myself. So most campaigns, role-playing game campaigns, they begin with a great idea. They begin with a lot of energy. They begin with a goal. And ultimately what happens is they die a long or sometimes abrupt, boring end to attrition, to boredom, to people moving away, to the inability to get people together at specific times, so on and so forth. They do not begin a story, have a middle, and have an end. It just doesn't happen. And I think we accept that. I think that when we go into any of our campaigns, we really, really want them to have something amazing to happen. We want it to be that big, long, epic TV show or giant movie with 3 parts, whatever. And especially and mostly I think on the GM side of things, we have a idea of what we want to do. And in my opinion, and this is maybe a video I could do at some point else, um, the GM should not have that idea structured very well. It should not be hammered into place. It should be a piece of clay that maybe has a few indents into it as we begin the process, but it will become more refined as time goes on. As the saying goes, God loves it when we make plans. And that's the same thing when we're talking about role-playing games. Um, I am lucky in the fact that I play with a group of people that I have known for most of my life. I've known every single person that is in well, with the exception of one person who just recently joined, but the vast majority of people that are in my D&D group are people I've known longer than my wife. And my wife and I have been together for nearly 20 years. I met these people when I was in middle school and I started playing D&D with them, and I have continued on from that time. We have played lots of campaigns, and at the beginning we played them in a way that we just had no ultimate goal. We had no where are we going with this type of situation. We just started them, rolled up our AD&D first level characters, and somebody had a dungeon, and we went into it and we gained experience, and then we went on to the next dungeon. We went on to the next dungeon, and so forth. And we just played, and then things, we didn't have a story. We didn't have you need to find the lost jewel of whatever. You need to discover what happened to the ancient civilization of this. Nothing like that. There was no, this is the ultimate evil and it has to be defeated because it's coming to destroy the world. And we just didn't do that. And I think it wasn't until, I don't know, we were in our high school years where we started having that idea. There was one idea that was a complete MacGuffin. We had we started this campaign, and my friend Jason was running it, and we had this call. One of the members of our party had been asked to come home because his uncle, the Baron of something or other, had passed away, and there was going to be the reading of the will. And this grandnephew of his, that was one of our characters, it wasn't me, I forget who it was gifted this chest, this huge chest that was just, who knows what was in it. We had no idea. It was just, this is yours, and the contents within are for you. And we tried everything we possibly could to open it. It was magically sealed. We couldn't figure out how it was, and so we started beginning this process of like we had heard tell of this magic item that can open anything, and it's over there. And so we began traveling and trying to discover what was in the chest. Um, we never opened the chest. We played in that campaign for a couple of years, and we never managed to open that chest. It was always one thing that we couldn't get done. There was always one aspect. At one point, it got stolen by demons, and we had to go into hell to get it back. But along the way, we never, ever, ever opened that chest, and it was kind of like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction before the briefcase in Pulp Fiction existed. It was our Maltese Falcon, let's put it that way. And Jason has since admitted that he had no idea what was ever going to be in the chest. It was just a thing. It was like exactly that. It was just a MacGuffin. It was a reason for us to travel. It was a reason for us to go on adventures, and that worked really well actually. But ultimately, it wasn't something that ever could have an end because we couldn't open it. We couldn't discover what was in it. We couldn't see what was going to happen. Um, there was a really fantastic adventure that my friend David ran that when he gave us the map of this town that we started in, there was this one building in the town, and everything else was specific. This is the smith, this is the tower, this is the general goods store, so on and so forth. But then there was this one large building, and it was kind of darkened in, and it just said unknown, and that was it. And this was uh, a building that the doors were sealed to, kind of like the chest, and we couldn't get it open. And we always wondered what was in that. And once we achieved, and there was this sage, this wizard that lived in the town that would give us quests, and we'd go out and do those, and we'd come back. And eventually, we had gained enough levels that he said, I think you're powerful enough now. And he called upon everybody in the town and said, we will finally open this ancient evil, and we're going to go inside, and we're going to defeat it. And then we all grouped outside, and the mage wizard, whatever, sage, cast some big giant spell, and something happened, but none of the doors opened. And everybody went home dejectedly. And that evening, the sage called us to his tower, and he said, in actuality, he had opened it, but the evil that was so great, he knew what the evil was. It was so great that was within, that if the townspeople had gone in, they would just have been slaughtered. But he had been waiting for us to achieve the level that we were and to have the power that we had, so we could go into that dungeon and defeat this ancient evil. And it was kind of Lovecraftian and what have you. But eventually we went down into the dungeon and we defeated it. And that was the end of the campaign. I always liked that idea. It was really well. So go ahead and steal that if you want. I really enjoyed that. But that kind of set the bar. At that point now, ever since that, and from when we moved on to second edition and third edition and 3.5, and maybe the half a blip that we played fourth, and we played Pathfinder, and we played Mech Warrior, and we played Traveler, and we've played tons of different role-playing games. We've always had a premise, a campaign, the beginning, middle, end, and there was a set point that was ended. And for the most part, we've achieved that. We've reached an end. Some of those endings went well. Some of the endings we fail, and the world came to an end. There's several that have happened like that. And then some of them still just petered out. They just didn't end. And I don't know what the solution is to that. I don't know how to make sure you have an amazing ending. I do think that you have to do a few things. If you play for an extended period of time, there are going to be marvelous villains that your players are going to hate. And as the game master, you need to make sure that those villains are put in place so they can finally meet their just desserts. And those just desserts need to come at the hands of the players. And then as an addendum to that, if there is a very, very specific villain that a very, very specific player despises for whatever reason, you need to make sure that that person is the one that finishes that thing, that villain off. Couple of stories I want to say about this. There was a campaign we ran where I had this general of this army of this kingdom that was overrun and destroyed due to a usurper, and the head general of that usurper was someone that my character hated him because he was always just a little bit too powerful. He was always just a little bit too big. And I could never have a situation where I was able to take him out. I mean, he was my commander when I was just a lowly sergeant in the kingdom's army, and he despised me and I despised him, but I had to follow his orders. And then he was a traitor to the kingdom that caused the kingdom and its downfall, which ended up with thousands of people dying. And I swore revenge. The final session of that campaign, a very, very structured, this has to be just these two people battling, was between my character and this other general. These two generals, there was a battle going around all around us, but these two generals met on the battlefield. And my character finally got his revenge, and who was able to finally, plunge, his giant axe into this man's face and his life. It was a very satisfying, very cathartic moment. Another thing is that I had a campaign where same exact situation, kind of two arch enemies battling left and right, so on and so forth. And the villain still died, but the person that hated that villain to no end did not get the final shot. Like, they're fighting and another player shot an arrow at him or cast a magic missile or something and actually knocked off the last few hit points. And that is a situation where, in my opinion, yes, the villain died, but there was no cathartic release for that player. And my opinion, that thing, I cast a magic missile and I do 11 points of damage. Oh, well, the guy's got 9 hit points. As the GM in that situation, you have to say, wait, he had 15 hit points. and then let the person that hates him do the final hit. So do things like that. To remember, you can adjust those things. You don't have to be that structured. Give the player that needs what they need for that moment. Give them that moment. So that's the first thing, I think. If there's villains that the players despise, they need to have that happen. If there is unresolved mysteries, they need to be solved at that moment. If there are unresolved, good aligned or whatever aligned NPCs that are on your side, they need to be a part of that. And those stories need to come together as well at the end, whether it is familial stories, stories between lovers, things like that. You need to have all those loose ends tie up. And can it be a little hackneyed at the end to get everything all together in one spot and get it done at the same time? Sure, but the campaign's over. You need to get those things done. So I think between that, the storylines of the players having a good summation, and also the mysteries being solved and the mysteries of the NPCs being solved, I think those are the things that you need to take care of to make it worthwhile, to make people excited about it. But I just finished a campaign this past weekend as a player, and now I get to go on and start my own campaign here probably in March. And when this campaign started, like, it was a little over 2 years ago. I started this guy. Probably can't read it real well. My chicken scratches of a handwriting. This is Odin Forgehammer. This is, and again, this is ED&D, so like if those stats and stuff that you just saw don't make sense, don't worry. This is the version that we make ourselves, and we've been playing ourselves, and this is like probably like the 12th version of these rules. Um, but this was Odin Forgehammer. He started off as the last remaining dwarf of Clan Forgehammer. The rest had been put to the sword by the evil Empire, and he and the other compatriots, we all hated the Empire, and we worked against the Empire, trying to bring their end. We actually called our adventuring party Empire's End, and we worked against it, and rallied against it. Had some other sub quests and other sub villains that we ran into, but in the end, we raised an army. That army went and attacked the last bastion of power that the Empire had, much like the Death Star and the Emperor inside. And we snuck in while the battle raged outside. We snuck in through an old smuggler's tunnel that we discovered, got into the palace, had a ton of successive battles where all of the evil people that we've hated the entire campaign, were kind enough to be present, so we could put the swords to them, and then eventually met the Emperor in his throne room by himself, and we fought three massively powerful creations of his, that had multiple different powers. We had a huge battle, and then we defeated him, and then we left, and we thought that was going to be the kind of the ending. However, we had made a pact with, well, actually, I should say, somebody that we worked with had made a pact with some tribes of orcs that we didn't really like, but they fought in the battle with us. We didn't like them because of some of their things that they did, as far as being slavers. They also had some other aspects, as far as they had claimed certain, territories when we told them they couldn't, and basically we didn't have an army to remove them or whatever. But then I remember as we left, we were all like, "Oh, that's it," and we kind of came out, and we had the head of the Emperor and the head orc of these tribes, this orc king by the name of Uzdrakar, basically came out and said, "We have done it, we've slayed it," but then goaded, and Odin, my character, despised Uzdrakar, to just despise him. His clan Forgehammer had fought his orc tribe of the north many times. It was a tenuous alliance, and Uzdrakar, being played by the game master, poked and poked and poked and poked until finally Odin he just called to his dwarven army, "Death to the orcs!" and Uzdrakar and Odin met on the battlefield, and Odin came close, but there was other people that the other players had to take care of, but Odin was able to slam his warhammer into Uzdrakar's face, and defeat him, and it made for the perfect ending after the ending of the campaign. It was really epic, and it was really fun, and I congratulate my fellow players in my group, and I also congratulate Craig as the person who was running the campaign to make that happen. Most campaigns don't end that way. They don't get set up that way. It is something that really, I mean, you could read books on it, you can watch videos like this on it, but it's a difficult thing to pull off, and ultimately it's one of those things where you're only going to really get it if, one, you kind of pull the strings behind the curtains to make it happen, and two, just through practice, just through play, so you get to that point. And trust me, my campaigns don't always end really well. It's almost like kind of a relief in a few of my campaigns where like the entire party was just killed off, and well, that was that. Nothing I can do now. And it was like, so you just had to, let the dice fall where they may, kind of thing. But work at it, make it. If you're watching this video, I'm going to guess that you've seen tons of movies, you've read tons of books, you've read lots of graphic novels, tons of TV shows. You've seen good endings and bad endings. Learn from those, and just do what you can to know what your players want, so you can give them what they want, and you can also have an epic ending to your campaign. So there you go. Thanks for letting me talk about this. This was just like something that popped into my brain since the campaign ended this last weekend. If you have campaigns that ended really horribly, I'd love to hear those stories. If you have campaigns that ended epically, I want to hear those. If you have a campaign that ended, I'd love to hear that as well. So leave those in the comments. I try to respond to every single one. Thank you for the time it took you to watch this video. Hit the little like, subscribe, bell, whatever it is that you do. I'd really appreciate that if you would. And until next time, this is me, Undead Viking, telling you to have yourself a great day. All right, bye-bye.